Good afternoon. Today I have the lovely Mike Craven, who I'm sure doesn't need any introduction, but would you like to introduce yourself, Mike, and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm the lovely Mike Craven, author of the Washington Post series, the award-winning Washington Post series, now a Sunday Times bestseller, and I'm delighted to be here.
Good, pleased to hear it. So, did you always want to be a writer?
I did, funny enough. I didn't think I ever could be a writer, but I was writing when I was very little, appalling stuff, I'm sure. When I say little, I mean under 10 years old. But in those days, it wasn't really a thing that a working class lad from Newcastle could aspire to. So I joined the army when I was 16, and I pretty much stopped writing then. Actually, but I never stopped reading. Obviously, I read probably more in the army than I have ever. And it wasn't until 2013 when I was shortlisted for the debut Dagger that I actually seriously considered it. To be honest.
And what made you finally take the plunge and actually write seriously?
It was, well, the debut Dagger that the Crime Writers Association run, you only have to submit the first 3,000 words. So I did that. I wrote 3,000 words. I took 2 weeks off work. Sorry, I took a week off work. I wrote 3,000 words in the first 3 days, and I did the synopsis of the next 2, and I submitted it, and promptly forgot all about it, to be honest. But it got shortlisted. And we went down to London and we met Lee Child and Frederick Forsyth and loads of other authors. And then an agent actually said, "Can I see the manuscript?" And I only had 3,000 words, so I needed to write another 97,000. So I told her it was nearly finished, but not quite. So I told her a bit of a porky. Then I went away and wrote it, and it was awful. It was absolutely awful. And she roundly rejected it, but she gave me some incredibly useful feedback, which I then took on board, completely rewrote it, and that was Born in a Burial Gown, the first in the Avison Fluke series, and that got a publishing contract. The first publisher I submitted it to got snapped it up, so that was a decent start. And then the following year, I met an agent called David Headley, who I gave a copy of Burial Gown to, and approached me and said, "Next time you've got something to submit, please do consider me first," which I did, and that was Body Breaker, and he signed me on the basis of that. He said, "I want you to rewrite it though, because I want you with a big publisher, not the small publisher I'm with now." I thought we're out over Christmas, actually. This was Christmas 2015, 16. And I said it'll be easier for me just to rewrite something from scratch, which was Puppet Show, which originally was going to be the third sort of story in the Fluke series. So I wrote Puppet Show, and over the course of 2017, I polished it and finished it as best I could. David made a few suggestions, and in 2017, very early, January 2017, Little Brown bought it, and they published it in 2018, and it's been a sort of steady increase in readers, and it's going well. I mean, the Puppet Show won the Gold Dagger, which was pretty cool. The Black Summer and the Crater, the next 2 in the series, were both longlisted for the Gold Dagger, and on Sunday it will be in the paper that it's a Sunday Times bestseller. Dead Ground is a Sunday Times bestseller, so it's going well. My publisher is very pleased, and my agent's very pleased, because and pleasing my agent is the main thing, obviously, because he's a businessman and he wants to make money, and if he makes money, I'm making money, obviously, and if I'm making money, the publisher's making money. So it just allows me to keep on doing this. I've been a full-time writer since 2015, so.
Well, hopefully you're pleased as well, because it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. It's. I mean, when I was first starting out, and I met authors when I was doing writing conferences and things, and I was pretty much in awe of them. And now those same authors, some of them are asking me for quotes on their books and things, and to see the big displays and bookshops that I've never been to, of dead grounds, and people all over the world, actually. People from America, because it's not out in America, so they've had to buy it from the UK, and theirs are just starting to arrive now, because obviously because of the postage. So that's pretty cool, and it never gets old. The day it does get a bit old and samey is the day I probably should pack it in, but I'm not there yet.
If you were to be transported into any of your books as a character, which book would you like to be in, and what character would you be?
Black Summer, because I do like my food, and Black Summer's a foodie book. What would I like to be? I think I'd like to be Poe in that book, actually, because he gets to eat that lovely meal in the Michelin starred restaurant. Then he goes round to his neighbour's Victoria Humes, and he has 3 helpings of lamb hot pot, lamb tatty pot. Sorry, Cumbrians will kill me for saying hot pot. And then he eats in a pub. I can't remember what he has in that pub. But he eats something delicious. I know, and so yeah, it'd be Poe in that, just purely because I'm a greedy so and so.
That's the most random answer I've had to that question, but I love it. What's the most interesting thing you found doing research for your books?
I think, again, I'm going to go back to Black Summer, and that was the existence of the Royal, I can't remember what they're called. It's the Observer Corps, anyway, the Royal something Observer Corps, and they're the guys who originally in World War II, they were there to spot, actually it's the Royal Observer Corps, ROC. ROCA is the association that came up after it to support people who'd served. So they were in World War II, and they were the ones who spotted the planes, and so that the klaxons could sound, the air raid warnings could sound and get people into the bunkers and things. But they carried on that role in the Cold War and became, and their role was to observe the impact of a nuclear strike. So their bunkers were transformed, were put underground for a start, because obviously there were wooden sort of quite tall observation posts for World War II, because you need to have a good line of sight to spot aircraft. The need to be above ground on a nuclear strike was far less, obviously. So they buried down, they went underground, and they built bunkers, which had all this equipment to measure nuclear strikes, and they had enough food for 14 days, because after that they would be dead. So that was, yeah, and it was interesting. I spoke to some really cool blokes who had actually been part of the Royal Observer Corps, and they had some really, really interesting stories. I couldn't put anywhere near that amount of research in the book, unfortunately, because it would have just slowed the story down. The important thing for the story was that there was a bunker, and it was hidden, and it was secret, and no one knew where it was. But yeah, so that was interesting. And the stuff about the blue whale challenge in the Curator, that was interesting. But I already knew that, actually. I just did a bit more research, and I spoke to Public Health in Carlisle about what their response would be if there was an outbreak of teen suicides. So that was interesting as well, albeit a bit grim.
Very grim, yeah. But sadly, I think there was something recently, wasn't there, that was similar. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not nice, and it's a messed up world where people can be coerced into suicide just by logging onto a website. But that is the world that we live in.
Which is why I'm glad that I wasn't that age when the internet was around.
No, I'm very happy with the childhood I had. I don't think I'd have enjoyed it so much with access to all the things that the kids these days have access. I played outside, that was what we did. Whereas kids these days don't appear to, or after a certain age, they don't appear to do.
No. And I'm guessing, although I could be really wrong, that for Tilly's character, you have to research. You're more Poe than you are Tilly in regards to technology.
I'm more like Poe. You're absolutely right. And with it's interesting, actually, because the dynamics between the two means, because they're not on the same wavelength, I get to have Poe explain things to Tilly, and vice versa, which means I get to explain them to the readers as well. So that's a pretty useful trick to get information across without being patronizing, really, because normally it's Tilly being patronizing to Poe, or or Poe, explaining part of the world that Tilly hasn't experienced yet. I mean, the technical stuff, I just researched something that I think would be cool. So in Dead Ground, that I found out what charging cables, just a bog standard mobile phone charging cable, can have viruses hidden in them, and people purposely leave them in hotel rooms so that they'll be picked up by staff, and then future guests will borrow them. They'll upload viruses to the computers, and it was quite interesting actually, but also quite scary in the way that you can just actually be a victim of a crime without leaving your house, without doing anything wrong, without putting yourself in a particular. There's more and more ways to be a victim of a crime these days, and that part's actually a little bit scary, particularly for a dinosaur like me who doesn't really understand anything about this new world. So I'm very much like Poe, like that.
Yeah, and I've just finished a forensic science degree, and we were told that when we've done cybercrime, that there's literally more than the police can possibly ever hope to try and fight. So they just do the major stuff because that's all they can handle.
Yeah, I mean the fact is, I can't remember if I touched on this in Dead Ground. It might be the botanist actually. I think it probably is the botanist, the next one. That the real genius, not genius is a strong word, but the people who have a lot of competence in IT don't work for the police, because the police get paid tiny wages compared to what they can be earning in the private sector. So the police IT departments are A, they're underfunded, and B, they are probably unskilled. If you do work in a police IT department, then don't go and hunt me down. But I mean, I think that's just a sad reality. So if they came up against someone like Tilly, they wouldn't be able to uncover what she was trying to hide on the computer, for example. And when I was in probation, the facts were that there were some paedophiles, child sex offenders, who were more skilled on computers than the police were, and they were able to hide things on the computer to the point that the police couldn't recover it, which it's nobody's fault. It's just the reality of, and because it's a reactive profession, isn't it? Police IT, they're always playing catch up. They are always going to be playing catch up. It's just the reality.
Do you have any phobias, and would you write about them?
I don't. No. I mean, there's things I wouldn't want to do. So I wouldn't want to walk a tightrope over the Grand Canyon or something like that. But I don't think that's a phobia. That's just common sense. I don't like sultanas. It's not a phobia. It's just like I find them disgusting. But I think I put that in Dead Ground actually. That they're disgusting. My wife is scared of spiders and bees and wasps and things like that. But again, I mean, that's not uncommon. I mean, some people are scared of snakes. I absolutely love snakes. I used to be a professional snake breeder. No, I don't think I've got any phobias. And there's nothing I wouldn't write about. Actually, the one thing I wouldn't write about is the Derek Bird mass shooting that we had in Cumbria in 2010, I think, because that would just be a bit too exploitative. But otherwise, there's nothing on limits. And if you're a skilled enough writer, you can write it so you're not exploiting somebody's misery or something.
Do you hide any secret jokes or messages in your books?
Yeah, virtually every book has a serial killer Easter egg, if you know where to look. So it'll be a random name, somewhere will be an old serial killer. So I think there was a couple in Black Summer. I can't remember what it was in the curator. In Dead Ground, I think it was the address of a serial killer. Now I think I might have actually forgotten to do that in the botanist. I'll have to put that. Actually, I've got the proofs now, so I mean, it's a done deal. I mean, that book is written. I'm just going through the final proofs. As ridiculous as it is, I mean, I actually finished book 6, never mind book 5, before Dead Ground was out. So yeah, I tend to. In Dead Ground, actually, there's an Easter egg in Dead Ground that nobody's got, and that is have you read Dead Ground? I don't know if you have. The number of the safety deposit box that the James Bonds open, and then place the ceramic rats in it. And this isn't a spoiler. This is in the first chapter. It's 200 and do you know, I can't remember, it might be 209 or something like that. And it was Alan Shearer. It was he's Newcastle's number 9 centre forward, and it was the number of goals that he scored when he was playing for us. But nobody's spotted that, and I've got some quite keen football fans, Newcastle fans. So yeah, that's one that nobody's spotted.
I like it. I'm from way down south, and I'm a Luton Town supporter. So.
Oh well. So
although
we'll crosses to bear.
We beat Carlisle quite a few times when we were in the league. So. But Newcastle, we didn't manage.
I support Newcastle somewhat, but I'm not bothered about Carlisle as much. I want to do well, obviously, but I prefer cricket these days. I mean, I've got the cricket on over there. You can't see it, but I'm keeping a weather eye on it. Joe Root's bowling at the minute.
Yeah, that's something that goes over my head. I'm just looking forward to the Euros later.
Yeah. Is it the opening ceremony today? Was it the first match today?
Yep. Although my colleague asked me who was playing and I had no idea. I'm so excited, but I have no idea who's playing.
I didn't even know it was on. It was my wife who told us, because I've just I've stopped following football, because like I say, I watch cricket more, and as soon as all the big money started in the Premier League, I thought it got a bit boring, quite frankly, because most of the clubs couldn't compete with that. So it lost its competitive edge.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it when Leicester screwed over the big clubs. That was great fun, but that's not going to happen very often at all.
No, that was awesome. Yeah, I loved that actually. That's going to be one of the best seasons ever, I think. What was I going to ask you? The whole one book a year thing, I guess that's your publisher. Considering you're such a popular author and you've written 2 more, why can't we have them? Basically.
Yeah, it's my publisher. I mean, and this is what a lot of people don't realise, because they do see authors pumping out through, particularly if they're with a primarily digital publisher like Bookouture or some of the smaller publishers, that they want 3 books a year or 3 books every 15 months or something like that. With the big publishers, it's a big thing getting a book out. The amount of processes it has to go through, and because it's out in hardback and then paperback, in effect, that's 2 books a year. And if I actually had 2 books a year, as in 2 new books a year, it would actually be 4 books a year, because there'll be 2 hardback releases, 2 paperback releases, and there wouldn't be the time. And they need the book 18 months before it's due to be published, because that's when they start working on it. So it goes to editorial first to make sure it's actually suitable, then it goes into a process where each person gets to work on it. So this is I'm holding the proofs of The Botanist now, and it's been typeset and everything, and I'll go through it just to try and spot typos. My wife will go through it because she's a proofreader. I've got a couple of people who I send it to as well, because they're very good. And so it's a big long process. Then you've got marketing, you've got sales, you've got key account managers, you've got publicity, because publicity and marketing aren't the same thing, which is something I found out. So yeah, and I'm going to say, so it's going to be 1 book a year, but next year you're getting 2 books, albeit I can't tell you anything about the other book other than it's going to be a Poe and Tully book. It's going to be a little bit different, but The Botanist is an out-and-out fluke novel. But just before that, or just after that, it's going to be very close to it. I think it might be just before, about maybe a month before, there's going to be something a bit fun coming out, but I'm not allowed to tell anyone. My editor wasn't even allowed to, because when I made the Sunday Times list on Tuesday, because you find out on Tuesday, although the Sunday Times isn't out till Sunday, obviously. She sent a letter out to Little Brown, just sort of boasting, basically, because it's a feather in the publisher's cap, and it's a feather in marketing. And my publicist she was the first person to ring me, actually, because I mean, it's all they're the ones who actually promote the book while I was writing it. And in her letter, she said there's some cool news coming out, but it's embargoed until February next year. So, but I think it'll put a smile on people's faces, because between books 5 and 6, The Botanist and The Mercy Chair, there's going to be a 2-year gap between Poes, because I've got a standalone coming out in 2023, something I wrote years ago, which Little Brown bought me. Now, I was hoping that was going to just come out in February as just a paperback, but they want the full whack, they want the full hardback and stuff. Although the dates haven't been finalised for that, they're waiting to see. They're waiting to get Dead Ground out the way first. So we'll see. But no, you're not getting more than one book a year. Don't be greedy.
It's a compliment.
Yeah, no, but it's quite difficult to explain it to someone because people do say, why can't it be released now? But I mean, the reality is I have very little say. I certainly have no say at all about the publishing schedule because my editor also has a bunch of other authors as well who have to be fitted into the schedule. So they don't publish anyone. They don't publish more than one book on it because books are out on Thursdays. So there's only 52 Thursdays in the year, obviously, and there's certain periods where you don't publish books. Super Thursday, for example, is a book where everyone tries to avoid because that's when all the publishers send out their celebrity cookbooks and things ready for the Christmas market. So round about in September, I think, or maybe I don't know, my agent knows. There's a period of time when nobody sends out crime novels or anything because they just don't get any column inches because there's only so many column inches that the newspapers can do for the reviews and things like that. So yeah, so I'm one author in an imprint, and that imprint is one of 14 imprints with Little Brown. Now Little Brown are one company within Hachette. So it's a massive organization. I mean, it's the third biggest publisher in the world. So I have no say whatsoever. And if they want to publish more than one book a year, they'll tell me. They won't ask me.
Fair enough. When you wrote your first Poe and Tilly book, did you know it was going to be a series?
Yes. At that point, my agent, when he said, I want you to write a new book, he said, I want it to be a police procedural set in Cumbria. He said, publishers are looking for, then it was anyway, I don't know what they're looking for now. So don't everyone rush out and do this. They're looking for series sets in outside of London, in parts of the country that aren't saturated with books. Or don't already have a massive author writing there. So avoid Brighton because Peter James has got that boxed up, and avoid Edinburgh because Ian Rankin's got that, and Aberdeen because Stuart McBride. Van McDermott, she makes up places, doesn't she? But Peter Robinson's got Yorkshire, for example. So it was intended. In fact, my editor, when I got the first set of notes, one of the things she said, the ending was a bit too. It wasn't clear that this was the start of a series, so she made me change the ending slightly, because that's what they want. They want series. Standalones are doing very well at the minute, but you're only one miss away. And if you're writing standalones, because the model is, I believe, that 50% of the sales when a new book is out is going to be backlist sales. So they want new readers. So the Dead Ground hopefully will attract more readers than the Creator, which attracted more readers in Black Summer and so on. And then they want as many of those new readers then to go back and read the first lot of the series, because by then everyone's made the money, and it's just basically we'll print them and then we'll sell them. If you're writing standalones, then you're only maybe a standalone away from people going, well, no, I'm not fancying that author. But readers of series, they can be a bit more forgiving sometimes, because if a book gets to a certain number in a series, a lot of readers have got confidence that if it's got to say book 8 or 9, or I mean high teens for some of the big authors like Mark Billingham and Peter James and Ian Rankin must be over 20 by now, I would have thought, that the readers have got confidence that there must be something there, even if that one wasn't their particular cup of tea, they might pick up another just to give them another go. Standalones, you don't really get that luxury. Saying that, I'm writing, the next book I write will be a standalone. It won't be a Poe book, because I've written 6 Poe books on the trot now, and it starts to feel like a never-ending task. So I'm going to have a quick break, write something probably quickly by the end of the year, then I'll go back to Poe next year. And let David.
You make it sound so easy. I'll just quickly write a standalone.
Well, it's the way I write, I'm always thinking about the next book anyway. So I've got this story that I want to write, and it's not a police procedural book. It's set in the States, set in New York, and it's just going to be a bit of bit of fun. It might never get published. It's just something I want to do, just to give myself a bit of a mental break more than anything. But plenty more poetry to come.
Good. I should hope so too. Otherwise, I think people might descend on you and demand it and stand outside your front door. What's your most overused word? What's the one word that you're constantly like, oh, or your editor picks up?
It tends to be, there's normally one a book actually that I overuse. In The Botanist, it was goat. For some reason, goat kept on coming up. As a poet said that somebody smelled like a goat, and then he bought a nose to tail goat from this thing, and that kept on. He never got to it. That was like running gag through it. Every time he was about to settle down to eat some of his goats, something else cropped up, and there was something else come up about a goat. But they all stayed in actually. I'll be reading it over the next couple of weeks just to spot the typos and things like that. So that'll be so yeah. But there's always something, and it's normally something my editor. Actually, my wife normally picks it up. She'll do a sort of a word count thing. You've used this word 73 times or something, and she'll make suggestions about different words, and I'll either agree or I won't agree. And that's how editing is. I mean, ultimately, it's my book, and I have the final say on this, unless it's a legal thing. Because that's one of the processes I go through. They all go through solicitors to make sure nobody's going to get sued and things. And this adds to the time it takes to get a book out, which is so it's not just as if I finish it, then 2 weeks later it's in the shops. As I finish it, and then people work on it for 18 months, and then it's in the shops. Which is another reason why you don't get a book more than one book a year.
It's annoying. Although
there's plenty of other good authors out there, so I'm certainly not the only author that people are enjoying reading at the minute.
One of the top ones, though.
Well, that's very nice to hear.
So you've achieved some of the massive things that authors want to achieve. So what's your goal now?
I was just talking about my wife actually, because I've got the Gold Dagger, which quite frankly is something very few people have. I mean, it's been going since 1950 something. There's been a few greedy people who've won it more than once. So there's only say 50, 60 people in the world have got this award, and I'm one of them. I would like to win it again, obviously, but I mean, I'm not going to put that on my list. The next thing on the list was to be a Sunday Times bestseller, and now I am. So that's something else that'll be on my next books. I think the next thing, my next goal, it's my agent's goal as well, is to get a publishing deal in America that we're happy with. Because David, he's not one to rush into it, and he's saying your value rises. Each month that we wait, your value rises. But at some point, we're just going to have to sell it and then see how it does in the States. And then see how it is received by the critics in the States. But I mean, there's a balancing act between quality and quantity as well. So the Sunday Times thing is basically saying this person can sell books, and the Gold Dagger is saying, or all the daggers actually, it's not just the gold, are saying this is a book that has achieved a certain quality. So yeah, we'll crack America, and then we'll have a look at some of the American awards like the Edgar or the Barrys or things like that. But I mean, when I first started this, I mean, I never dreamed that this was going to be a thing, a possibility at all. So I'm still in shock about the Sunday Times actually. And the reality is, because the numbers, the Sunday Times count from Sunday midnight all the way up to Saturday midnight the following day. So it's a 7-day period starting midnight Sunday. And so the Dead Ground was out last Thursday. So it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3-day sales basically. And people say, oh, fantastic numbers on 3-day sales. But it's not really 3-day sales, because that includes all the pre-orders as well. So they all come on the first day. So basically it's a year up to your first thing. But on the Monday, the Amazon and Waterstone's numbers come in first. And I got copied into an email from somebody quite senior in sales saying, this is the numbers for Waterstones. And then she said, this is what it took to get on the Times last week. So if the independents come through and they report on the Tuesday, we might have a chance. It's an outside chance. And then my editor rang me up. I was on my way to Grasmere to do a book signing. And she said, you hit number 7. And the reality is that even if I hadn't sold a single independent book, I would have sold enough through Waterstones and Amazon to make number 10. I think I would have hit the chart anyway. So it was yeah. So I've been getting champagne sent all week from various people I work with, because it's a big thing for them as well. I mean, I am one person, and it's a business, the Poe and Tilly books. I mean, and it's not just my business. I mean, I make my money out of it, but everyone else has to make money out of it. So this is it's a big thing for everyone. The Sunday Times thing. I didn't really realize until the emails started to fly through for the managing director of Little Brown and people like that. I'm just absolutely delighted. My agent obviously can now ask for more money and more things, and he can be even more demanding than he is now. Which is quite. They're all terrified of my agent up there. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, so I don't know what the question was, but I don't know. At the minute, I think I just want to. I think next year I want to consolidate and try and see if we can get the botanist in the Times as well, and then we'll take it from there.
Sounds like a good plan. A lot of the authors I speak to have imposter syndrome. You're so successful. Do you still have that? Do you still get nervous at a new release?
Yeah, absolutely. I did a podcast with Mark Billingham the other day, and he said, yeah, he still gets it. I do. You never. I mean, Dead Ground's my favourite book in this series so far, but that doesn't mean it's going to be everyone else's. That absolutely doesn't. Some people swear blind that Black Summer's, the Puppet Show's their favourite book. Some people say The Curators. A lot of people are saying Dead Ground is, which is very nice, but certainly there's always going to be people who don't like it as much as the previous book. And that, I mean, that's as it should be, actually. It'd be a bit weird if everybody thought as I did. It would be a bit of a strange world indeed. So yeah, you're always a bit apprehensive when you've got a new book out, and that's as it should be. I'm always a bit nervous when I sit down with the start of a new book, as in will I be able to do it this time? Will that sort of well be dry when I go to get, because I always know roughly what the story is going to be, very roughly. I could probably write it down on a page, basically. I mean, that's how much I sort of plan. But I do have a plan. I'm not a pantser, as some people. I hate that term, but everyone understands it. But it's just the stuff that surprises me, which makes it so enjoyable. That's the stuff I don't know is gonna. That I hope is going to be there next time I sit in front of the computer. But and in some ways it's getting easier with Poe and Tilly because I know exactly how they'll react to certain situations. So writing a standalone next is I'm expecting it to be more of a challenge because they're new characters to me. So I'm gonna have to think very carefully about how they will react because I'm building up someone from scratch. So whereas with Poe and Tilly now, I've written 6 novels, countless short stories and novella. So I pretty much know how they're going to respond to certain situations and what they're going to do. Who's Poe going to object to? Who's he going to kick off to? Which things is Tilly going to get the wrong end of the stick and misunderstand things? And the usual things. There's always going to be something about Poe's diet because that's funny, makes me laugh. That's the conversations that me and my wife have constantly. When she's trying to get me to eat salad as part of my tea, I'm saying, I'll have salad for lunch. You can make me have salad for lunch. I don't mind that. But I'll put my foot down for tea. So conversations like that, yeah. So that bit is sort of second nature. And I've also got a file full of things ready to be used if I ever run dry on that. But writing a book from scratch, because Mark Billingham's new book is a standalone, Rabbit Hole, very, very good as well. And he said he didn't know if he'd be able to do it because you just don't. And so yeah, the imposter syndrome. And if you didn't have it, I think again your writing would be flat and dry, and you'd be phoning it in.
Yeah, I think I'll make lots of indie authors feel better. as well. If you get scared, then they'll know that they're
Yeah,
right.
and there's a lot of this is luck anyway. I'm a successful author now, but there are many incredibly talented authors who just haven't had the luck I've had. I just happened to have met my agent at the right time when he was looking to build his list. I happened to almost look onto a couple like Poe and Tilly who sort of shouldn't work on paper, but when they actually get them down, it does. So there is no, and I mean, everyone will say the same when it comes to that. You cannot assume that just because you're an exceptional author that you're going to become a successful author, because that just simply isn't the case.
If you're able to spend any day with an author, dead or alive, who would you choose to spend a day with?
Terry Pratchett. He's my favourite author, has been for years. I do like Stephen King. I think he'd be a fascinating dinner guest because he's had a very interesting life, and he's also one of my favourite authors. But I would love just to sit down with Terry Pratchett and just talk about the Discworld and how he went about creating that. Just probably the best bit of world building there's ever been, really. I mean, I know people say Tolkien was the best world builder because he invented languages and things, but I would put Terry Pratchett's Discworld up against anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, a popular choice actually when I asked that question. So yeah, I can understand that. I can see behind you have masses of books. Is there one that's your prized possession?
Well, they're all downstairs actually. I've got my sort of showcase one downstairs. I've got a few actually. I've got a signed Carl Hiaasen, which I'm very, which I'm a big Carl Hiaasen fan. I've got a signed Stephen King, which is good. I've got a few Sherlock Holmes books that are over 100 years old. They're pretty cool. So I've got some nice special editions downstairs. I suppose my pride and joy would be my signed Bruce Dickinson book, The Iron Maiden Singer, because I bumped into someone who knew him actually. I blurbed him. He'd asked me to blurb his book, which I was happy to because it was a good book. And I saw him at Capital Crime in London, and I had my Iron Maiden t-shirt on. He said, "I'm friends with Bruce Dickinson." My father used to teach him fencing because Bruce Dickinson's an Olympic standard fencer. If you got anything you want him signed, I'll do it. I'll be meeting them soon. And of course, COVID happened, so that turned that into a while. But eventually, he managed to get my copy of his autobiography signed, which was pretty amazing. So yeah, that's my pride and joy at the minute. I mean, it's just a mass-produced book, and I've got some quite valuable ones, but that's the one. And my own, I mean, it's the Puppet Show. I mean, my first hardback book. I mean, that's also because I've got the Goldsborough special edition. I've got number one because Goldsborough always give the authors number one. So I've got 3 Goldsborough books all at number one, but my Puppet Show's my favourite.
What's been your favourite moment being an author so far?
Winning the Gold Dagger, I think, because it was just so unexpected. My agent actually thought I was up for Black Summer. When he found out it was the Puppet Show, he went, "Oh shit!" So literally nobody thought. The fact I was shortlisted and went down to London is a surprise because I wasn't even going to bother going. But my publisher paid for the table and everything, as they do every year. I mean, because they didn't know who was going to win either, because it was and because it was the last award of the night, other than the Diamond Dagger is announced before, and that's for a lifetime achievement. So the Gold Dagger is the last one where there's actually a short list and the opening envelope, and the winner is there. So it was about 11:20 by the time it was announced, and my publisher had been feeding me champagne and beer since about 5:30. So my speech was a right load of gobbledygook. So that was my proudest moment, probably also my most embarrassing moment as a thing, because it was filmed and put on YouTube, and just I cringe every time. So I sort of self-edited that bit out, and I just pretend it was an awesome speech. But it really wasn't.
What do you like to do when you're not writing?
Read. sit in the garden, go out. I mean, I live in a beautiful part of the country, so I go out most days with the dog, and we spend a couple of hours having adventures. And at some point, the crime festivals will start up again, and they'll go back in the calendar. But my wife and I like to eat out, so now that the restaurants are back open again, now we're starting to do a bit more of that. So yeah, nothing terribly exciting.
Is there anyone, if you met them at a crime festival or something, that you'd fanboy over?
Absolutely. I still get tongue-tied when I talk to Lee Child, because I'm a big Jack Reacher fan. If I ever met Carl Hyacin or Michael Connolly, I think I would just be looking at them with big puppy eyes, just wanting to touch their arms and just be a right weirdo. So it's probably best that I don't ever meet them for a while.
What if they were to hand you one of your books and say, could you sign it for me, please? And I'm a big fan.
Lee Child did that to me, and I just didn't know what to put. I passed to the point I can't remember what I put, because he had a copy of The Puppet Show in his goodie bag, his Harrogate goodie bag. And when I went just to say thank you, because he gave me some words of encouragement at the Daggers dinner in 2013. So I just went to say thank you. And I said, oh, no, The Puppet Show was out this year. And he said, oh, I've got that in my bag. And he was on it was sort of Sunday. So he had it on him. So he asked me to sign it. I don't know. I see, signing books is weird for me, because I'm always terrified I'll make a mistake. I never know what I'll do if I make a mistake. I mean, I have written Happy Bog Day to someone when I was meant to say happy birthday. I signed my name WM Craven once. You really never know. Because as an author, you type most things. I mean, you get out of practice writing with a pen. And I see like books I've had signed, and you've got beautiful penmanship. Mine looks like spiders crawled into a bottle of ink and just walked over the page.
I noticed everyone was teasing you for just using your initials in the latest ones because you're so big now you can't even write your own full name.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was advice I got given quite early on. Before it was my agent, actually, because the Puppet Show was Goldsborough Book of the Month, and that means they bought 750 out of Go Down London, signed 750 books. And David said, you need to get a signature now that you can replicate and doesn't take you very long. I practiced, and I came up with something I could do, which is like if I was signing checks and things, it's similar, but I would actually write my surname properly. So I can do it fairly fast, and they look fairly similar, but it's still better than some people's signatures. I mean, Michael Connolly's. I mean, I know he has to sign 10 times the number I do, but Jesus, put a little bit of effort in.
I think that was Tony Ford, actually, wasn't it? That was taking a piss.
It was a few. I think everyone ganged up in the end, but yeah. At least mine's got M, W, and C in it. I mean, Michael Connolly, you have to go back and check previous books just to see it's him and not somebody just testing if the biro was working.
I'm sure you could give as good as you get anyway. Actually, I've heard that you can. From various people.
Next army, next probation, so I'm not a pushover.
No, I don't doubt it. If I was to ask your darling wife and those closest to you what your most annoying habit is, what would they say?
I think my wife would probably spend a couple of days listing them, but if she had to say number one, it was that I'm far too chirpy in the morning and I don't get tired at night. So I'm a night owl in the early morning, whatever the term is for the early risers. So I'm quite a light sleeper. So once I'm awake, I'm awake. I'm not drowsy. I'm awake like doing right. What's happening? What can we do now? And sometimes if I wake up, particularly if I'm plotting a book or I'm in the middle of writing, I'll think of something and I'll be sending myself emails. So by the time it's my wife's woken up, I sent myself 25 emails, and so that's what she would say in that. I don't sleep anywhere near as much as I should. I say she just sleeps too much, but
who was your first celebrity crush?
Let me think. Debbie Harry, I suppose. I was a big punk fan when I was younger, but Debbie Harry was well, she was a sort of punk anyway, wasn't she? I mean, Blondie was sort of classed as a punk band. They certainly classed themselves as a punk band. And I had a poster of Debbie Harry on my bedroom wall. So yeah, I suppose. And she's still a very beautiful woman now. I think she's in her 60s now, probably.
Popular choice as well. It's weird with guys, it's either cartoon characters or Debbie Harry, and with women, it's Donny Osmond and David Cassidy. It's pretty much that's it.
Right, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees, I've always had a little soft spot for her. And Hazel O'Connor as well. I mean, it was just all the sort of musicians, the female singers when I was growing up who had strong voices, I suspect. But Susie Sue and Debbie Harry were the main two because they were also songwriters rather than just singers. They weren't just in it because they looked pretty. They were in it because they're incredibly talented musicians.
If you were stranded on a desert island, what 3 things would you want with you?
A do not disturb sign, a big pile of goat curry, and a big pile of books. I don't know. I mean, desert islands. I mean, Australia is a desert island. So I mean, you say desert island, and you could live out your rest of your days quite comfortably if you're on the right place. It's not like the cartoons from the far side. I mean, it's basically sort of the size of a kitchen with one palm tree in the middle. Yeah, so yeah, that's where it would be. I think I'd quite enjoy it, quite frankly. That Tom Hanks film where we've got Castaway. Oh, Castaway, of course it's called Castaway. Yeah, I would have loved that. It would have been absolutely brilliant. I wouldn't have tried to hang myself. I would have been happy as I would have been setting off fires when the ship. I would have been hiding. But don't tell my wife that, obviously.
Your secret safe with B and whoever watches this is fine. I'm sure no one will tell her. Do you have any strange or unusual habits or hobbies? Or talents?
No, I mean, I used to breed snakes and lizards and frogs and all sorts, but nowadays it's pretty much reading is what I do in my spare time. We got our internet sorted out during the first lockdown because we had a polling connection before, so we've got BT fiber optic, so we're able to get Netflix and Amazon and Disney and all that. So we've been working our way through the box sets that people have been talking about for years that we didn't have access to. So yeah, my wife and I, we tend to like the same things, the crime dramas, and every now and then Joanne will like something a bit unexpected, like watching Ragnarok at the minute on Netflix, which is Norse mythology, and every now and then she'll like something with a bit of mythology in it, which I would ordinarily watch. She wouldn't. So yeah, nothing weird.
And if you were able to go back to any time in history, or if you're able to go forward, where would you go?
No, I don't know. I think because history is so well documented, I'd quite like to go back and see some dinosaurs. I think that'd be pretty cool. But if it would probably get a bit boring after a while because there wouldn't be anything like a Jurassic Park. It wouldn't be all one place for a start. You'd have to go hunting for them, and they'll be all covered in mud, and they'll be dirty, and they would run away from you or eat you. It'd be quite interesting to go like 1,000 years in the future just to see what the technology's like. Also to see if my books are still in print. That'd be quite funny.
Well, technically, I suppose it'll all be electronic by then. I'm pretty sure paper books won't exist.
I doubt there's any trees. I think it'll be a very we're potentially not even living on this planet anymore by then.
Yeah, maybe. What would you most like about the future? Like driverless cars or robots to do everything for you?
I think there would be past the stage where you had to have computers that could break down and things like that and go wrong. I think technology would just be so much more user friendly than it is now. I don't know. I think it'd just be interesting to see what things have been invented that haven't even been considered now. I mean, tomorrow's technology is today's magic, isn't it? I mean, if you showed somebody like 300 years ago a film, say Jurassic Park, or just because we're talking about Jurassic Park, they would just burn you at the stake, wouldn't they? They would just think this is something weird. And technology seems to move forward in big, massive bursts, and then it'll slow down for a bit. So I suspect the next big thing will be quantum computers. I don't really understand. In fact, I don't understand it at all. I need Tilly to explain it. But that once that is done or cracked properly, apparently that's going to be a massive game changer in everything. And artificial intelligence will become a reality then. And then we get to have the Terminator Wars. So that'll be quite interesting and a lot of fun as we battle our robot masters. We're all purely there to produce batteries for the Matrix. So yeah, so there'll be all sorts of interesting things to look forward to. I watch a lot of television sometimes, probably too much.
It's very interesting to see how your mind works, I think. Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you, unless you think there's anything I haven't asked you that you want to tell us.
No, it's been fun. I mean, you asked me things I haven't been asked before, which is always a bonus. Yeah, it's been fun.
I'm sure people already know, but if they don't, would you like to tell them where they can find out more about you and where they can buy your books from?
You can buy my books anywhere that sells books, and I'm on Twitter, MW Craven UK. I'm on Facebook, all over, probably too much, and our website, mwcraven.com. And I always respond to emails, so please do get in touch and tell me how much you adore my books. And if you don't, then email somebody else.
Thank you very much.